say ambition to me just means, having a desire or a goal or, something inside of you that pushes you to want to accomplish or be something or do something.
Hey, this is Paul, and I created Gay Ambitions. It's the 10-year anniversary, and I decided to honor it by doing a finale highlighting some of the moments. GA has always been about connection to people, and that's a constant theme across the content that I pulled for this. These audio clips are taken from the first 8 interviews that I did starting in 2012, and I captured some of the best sound bites. First up is Bradley Rolston. He's a great guy, and I spent some time working with him in Canada after this interview. He had this to say about forming relationships.
When it comes to kind of making meaningful connections, like connections are what life's about. It's those moments where you're able to connect with someone and relate to them on a much more human level. And I think probably the ability to do that, or at least what I found, like my ability to have real close connections with people, and that is to really like get interested into the things that they're doing, like and just don't fake it. So if you're meeting someone and you're meeting someone at a cocktail party and there's something that they're doing or something that they're wearing or something that they're saying, like just a genuine interest in asking them what it is about that. So if it's, I don't know, everything from a nice dress to something that has to do with sports or something like that, you go to a conversation where you're actually interested in what the person has to say. And you don't just make it like a sense of small talk where you're passing time. I think that's kind of passing time is kind of a wasted exercise in life. Like to really get interested to what they're saying and where they're from, and probably from that interest is kind of where I set my motto of life. Start your day with a real curious mind. Like just be curious into the things, whether it's people or experiences or what might come of something.
Here's what he said about knowing he was meant to do his own thing.
I would say that it was by default because I've never made a very good employee. And I've just wrestled with probably being like working as an employee where I've had constraints around how I did things, how I started my day, more rules, I would say. I've always wrestled with that, even from being in school. So I'd say by design, I probably always thought that I'd be in some way like entrepreneurial, whether it's doing my own thing or trying to do a startup.
He also articulates the importance of energy within yourself.
You have to be stable in who you are yourself is probably the most important thing, and then it goes out. So you become confident with who you are, and then the next stage is having a good support and foundation of your family. Beyond that is your friends, then it's your neighborhood, then it's your community, your city, and then you can keep going out. But it's got to start. It's got to start like at the core, which is every individual person. I think is probably the best way that we can add value and peace and love to the world.
This next conversation with Matt Scalarud happened before I even started the podcast. The audio quality could have been better, but what he says is really spot on.
In general, people do business with people. So I think that's the fundamental, for me, that's always been a number one reason why I want to be out and socializing and dealing with people when it comes to business. It's because at the end of the day, email and even our website, telephone, everything that we use to help in business are just tools. But social media has kind of brought us back to a lot. In some ways, reminded us who we really are, which is very, very analog creatures. We're not digital, and it's all about interfacing and networking and knowing who you're working with. And so I think that's a really huge benefit and plus is to always be out there and be visible and realize that I think those that succeed the strongest in business are those that understand the mix of being able to develop something on, whether it's online or what have you, but being behind a computer, hidden away in an office, that's only something you want to do part of your time. And the rest of the time out and talking and listening and figuring out, trying to figure out what your target market or your client base might be really looking for instead of just assuming what they want on one end. Go out there and listen to them, show them what you've got, and shake hands, and as they say in the political world, shake hands and kiss babies.
And he shared this for aspiring entrepreneurs.
Well, just if you have a really good idea and you believe in yourself and you believe in the in the unique idea or concept that you've thought about, that's fantastic. And so, but I think a lot of the success will be in taking that idea and going out and putting it in the marketplace or online or putting it out there in the world, but then being very open to feedback. We don't know everything, so go out there and put it out there, take that risk, but then listen.
In the next discussion with Shane Mayer, I asked about Toastmasters because it's a nonprofit group that can really help improve someone's interpersonal and presentation skills while also building those connections.
The first really great benefit I got from it is a network. So I talked about the importance of the gay network, of knowing people. And Toastmasters for me allowed me to connect with an LGBT group, a network that I normally wouldn't have. For one, I was by far the youngest member. I learned so much from LGBT people who had just seen a lot and experienced a lot more than I had, and were talking about it in our meetings. So there were lots of great speeches about their coming out in the 70s and the 80s and living through things like the AIDS crisis. So I was able to learn a lot just by being around them. And like I said, diversity is a great value, and being around people of different ages has a lot of value, and making friends that you normally wouldn't meet. And then Toastmasters itself, the program, which you can do at really any Toastmasters club, is a really great program for just getting out of your shell, like you said, practice public speaking, getting more comfortable with it, getting really great feedback that is supportive but constructive and useful, will make you a better speaker, make you a more comfortable speaker. So I definitely recommend it to everyone. If you're a young LGBT person, I recommend joining something like Rainbow Toastmasters for all of those benefits. And if you're anyone else, join Toastmasters for all of the benefits you can. And I'll just say also that if you were to take a speaking class, you could easily pay a lot more for a lot lesser experience than you get by joining a Toastmasters club. It's a really affordable learning tool. So I hope more people consider it.
I don't want to get too political, but inherently, as part of the queer or ally community, we have to understand history. Roger Goodman was there for that history at the original Stonewall riots in New York City in 1969. I interviewed him right after President Obama made his 2013 inaugural address and asked him what he thought about the first time a president had mentioned the LGBT community in an inaugural address.
Well, I think it's even more historic because he's black.
Yeah.
So he's the first black president who was also the first president to even mention gay rights. And he says that the journey isn't over until his gay brothers and sisters have equal rights in this country. And to mention Stonewall in the same breath with Selma is a really watershed moment. It's a really stunning historical moment. It sort of made me get teary-eyed because I felt like he was talking to me when he said Stonewall.
Roger wrote a book called Thoughts of a Tribal Elder, One Queer Man's Journey from the Ashes Risen, and I asked him what the most important message was.
The most important message is that transformation is possible, that internal transformation can happen even in the midst of oppression. It can happen, and that community can be formed even in the midst of antagonism. I want people to take that away from the book, that we are a people of endless possibility, and that possibility is within our grasp. But we have to see it and recognize it and own it and allow ourselves to be transformed into that possibility.
Roger passed away in 2015, and I regret that we didn't get a chance to meet in person in this lifetime. This exchange with Brad Clark was part of the first interview I did in person And I enjoy how he talks about Colorado, which is one of my favorite places to be, and I'll be spending some time there working this summer. I think it's critical that people learn to accept others at earlier ages, so I asked Brad what we need to do to help the youth.
It's actually probably the program I'm most proud of at One Colorado is the work that's being done with young people and with the education community. So, over the last couple, since 2011, we've actually helped increase the number of gay-straight alliances in high schools by about 60%. So there's now 160 gay-straight alliances in high schools all over the state. And I think it's really cool when you see them in, mountain towns or the Western Slope or the Eastern Plains, further you get outside of Denver. And I think that's really what provides young people support within their own communities. And then at the same time we're working, we passed an anti-bullying law a couple of years ago, and then now working with teachers and educators to implement that law and train people on how does a teacher respond when you hear the word queer or that's so gay in a classroom? How are you supposed to combat bullying on an everyday level? And then the other area that has happened is we helped develop a model best practices for working with transgender and gender nonconforming young people, because oftentimes they're the ones that receive the bulk of the harassment within schools.
His passion for public service is admirable. I also asked him what progress he sees taking place over the next 1 to 5 years, which at this time meant 2014 to 2019.
Without a doubt, we're going to see marriage for gay and lesbian couples all across the country. And it's interesting, Judy Shepard once told an audience that she always told Matt that she would never see marriage in her lifetime, but that he would. And how ironic it is and sad that, she is going to see marriage in her lifetime. And I don't think there's any denying that. It's sooner or later it's going to happen. I think that's one thing. I think the other thing that we're really going to see is a much better understanding of transgender Americans. And I think we're going to see, especially with access to healthcare, many of the denials that are occurring, access to health insurance that we're seeing against transgender folks. I think we're going to slowly see that change. A lot of that's due to, while controversial, it's the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, that we're really going to see a huge impact on the LGBT community because of that law.
He was on point about marriage, but we still have to protect that with this Supreme Court, and I think there's a lot of progress to be made when it comes to understanding and supporting transgender Americans. This next guest, Jen Grace, had a similar podcast as me back in the day, and it was fun to interview each other. Our conversation happened in Dallas at the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce conference, and I love what she says about coaching.
I have a business coach, and if I had to cut out every expense possible, she would be the last thing on the list because it's that valuable. Awesome. Because you need somebody to keep you sane. Your spouse can only do so much, and I already feel bad for her as it is.
I asked her about the importance of groups like the NGLCC and the benefits of the conference itself.
The headline, wow. So this conference, it's really truly the one time of year that I look forward to all year round. It really has that much of an impact on my life because it's like a family reunion. And if you ask a lot of people, they'll probably say something similar to that it's like a family reunion. You're just walking down the hallway and you have access to people that you feel like you should not have access to. So yesterday, for example, with Mark Bertolini, who is the chairman and CEO of Aetna, which is a very, very large global company, is just wandering down the hallway in jeans. There is no other place that you're going to have access to people like that. I would say if anybody's listening to this or watching this and they want to find a way to volunteer, get involved with this organization in some way, shape, or form, because it seriously opens doors that I would never have had opened before.
I believe that being out in the world, taking action, and using your intuition gives you the ingredients for the right opportunities and introductions to come your way and help you build your life the way you want it. Riley Folds is another person that came on the podcast, and his advice to young people here is timeless.
First, I would say relates to looking for or developing a relationship with a mentor or even having role models is really beneficial. Again, a role model may be someone that you know, it may be someone famous, it may be, someone you never met before. A role model can be various people. A role model is great to have to kind of look up to and to see what kind of struggles that they may have overcome. A mentor is a little bit different, where you're going to build a relationship with that person. Again, you may know this person personally and professionally, or just professionally. You may know them just as a mentor. But really, this relationship that you build can be very helpful for many, many reasons. One, answering these questions that you may have about being out and open in the workplace, how to find LGBTQ inclusive employers, what to do if something happens, if you do feel discriminated in the workplace. So these individuals who have been there and done it can kind of provide that experience and that finesse that someone new in the workplace might need. So I think developing those relationships are really important.
And here's what he said about starting a business.
I think if you have an idea, definitely take the time to develop it, be passionate about it, and also get advice from anyone that you think is influential or that can help you in any way. I'll give you an example. So the idea of Out for Work came about, and I was like, oh, this is a great idea, but who would pay for something like this? And I met Justin Nelson, who was the founder, or co-founder, I should say, of the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. And I reached out to him, and I kind of poked and prodded, his mind about the program, and he provided some really good support and feedback, and it just kind of helped make everything run more smoothly in the initial startup. And the first company that came on board from Out for Work actually was IBM, and that was via an personal introduction from Justin Nelson to the person at IBM. So without that initial seed money from IBM, Out for Work would have never taken off the ground. And plus, once Out for Work had an organization like IBM on board, especially the first, it was much, much easier to get other companies on board.
These last two pieces are from Ed Johnson. I was fascinated with learning his story and what makes him tick. He has a cool accent, too.
Well, I grew up in London and lived there for 13 years and then moved out and did school and everything. But then right before all my friends sort of went off to university, I decided against that and decided actually university wasn't for me. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work in sort of the creative development and online industry. So I left school and went and got a job in London and did that as a campaign manager for an advertising network. So that was online advertising. So that was really where I'd obviously been interested in online for a long time, but then that was where I started to do it sort of more professionally. And then last year I was chatting with a friend and I sort of came up with an idea for SuitLink, because I said, well, there's nowhere apart from sort of gay bars and clubs where you can actually really network with other gay professionals and meet other gay professionals on a professional level rather than a sort of social level. And so pitched the idea of SuitLink to a couple of friends and got some feedback, and they said, yeah, it sounds like a really great idea, I'd definitely sign up. So then we started development, and I left my job and started doing this full time, and we launched about a month ago.
And finally, I asked him where to find funding for a new project or business idea.
LinkedIn's a great place to start. I know a lot of friends who've actually set up businesses and actually found investors through LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great place. Friends and family and colleagues, existing colleagues, is another great place. And people often think they think when they think of investment, they think of a big investment company, but actually friends and family, if you've got a good business plan and a good idea, it's worth looking closer actually to home and going to your friends and family and saying, might you be interested in investing for a share, and particularly to begin with, to get the idea off the ground. If it's a website, obviously it's good to have a prototype first to go to bigger corporation investors. So you're going to want friends and family to invest first, more often than not. And so LinkedIn and friends and family, I guess, are good places to start.
So many of these nuggets shared a decade ago are still very relevant today, maybe even more so as we try to go back out into the world after the pandemic. I have more in the works and appreciate you taking the time to watch or listen. I hope to see you soon.